Welcome to Aligned Impact, the podcast where conscious leadership meets bold entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Summer Huntington, and each week we dive deep with founders, innovators, and thought leaders who are rewriting the rules of business from the inside out. Here we talk mindset, brand, content, culture, the real stuff behind building a legacy-driven business that doesn't burn you out. No filters, no fluff, just real conversations that inspire aligned action and intentional impact. If you're a visionary leader ready to create with purpose, grow with integrity, and lead with your heart, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. All right, tell me a little bit about this new legacy project.
Yeah, this was a sneak attack. I never saw this one coming. But basically, one of the first people that I ever trained in AcroYoga, her name's Paige Allenson. She started the Africa Yoga project, and how that happened is I trained her in some basic acrobatics. She's literally out on safari with her family from Long Island.
Hey, big warm welcome to Jason Nemer. Jason, thank you so much for being here on the podcast and spending a little time with us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So introducing Jason. Jason is the founder of AcroYoga, and he has since delved into many other aspects of wellness. He actually just gifted me this book, Move, Connect, Play. I was very excited to unbox it today right before the podcast. And he is a mover and a shaker in the world of wellness, very forward thinking. Jason, I would love to just kind of dive right into our first question, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. You've lived a life that many dream of. You've performed at the Olympics, you've built a global movement, and now you're designing transformational wellness spaces. But often it's the quieter moments that really shape us the most. Can you share a recent experience during a training, on a retreat, or even in stillness that really reminded you of why you do this work?
It's the constant evolution. And as much as I'm a teacher and an innovator, I'm also in the trenches as a student. And I was just at a friend's aerial somatic training. And this is where you suspend people in a hammock. And a lot of the AcroYoga flying therapeutics that I innovated over the last 20 plus years. Basically now the hammock is lifting up a human and you get to lay underneath the hammock and not take the full body weight. And what I was really impressed with is not necessarily the actual somatic training, but it was the way the facilitator led it. And I heard her many times when somebody would ask her a question, she would ask a question back. And the way that I've trained the AcroYoga fleet for decades is very clear. This is the right way, and we do it this way, and that has a huge benefit. But as I'm growing and I'm learning about masculine and feminine gifts and struggles, I have rested in my masculine more in my teaching, and I saw a really beautiful example of how to let the student figure out their own answers instead of feeding them what you think. So the question is, what have I distilled in a quiet moment? Just watching her teach and going there thinking that I'm going to learn this new skill. And it was really a huge teaching refinement. And it makes me excited to get back into training teachers again, see if I can bring some of that softness into the way that I deliver my method.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that having people have that skill set of critical thinking where you propose a deeper question of inquiry can really help the student solidify their learning, especially when they have to verbalize the answer and sometimes take it deeper into another question. Tell me a little bit about what you've been up to in the past 6 months with going to any sort of retreats or workshops or diving into your own personal practice. What have you been up to?
So COVID ended all things AcroYoga in 2020. Obviously, for 6 months to a year, nothing was happening. And when that happened, I started writing books, and I moved to Austin and took a lot of different career turns that I hadn't expected. And in the last 6 months, I turned 50. I had a great 50th birthday. I had some of my dearest friends come together, and I presented my friends 6 different business plans, and it's all the things that I've been dreaming about that I haven't achieved yet. And I've achieved a lot of things that I never really expected I would achieve. I have a gift of dreaming big, and sometimes it actually pans out how I thought it would, and a lot of times it does its little meandering thing. So in the last 6 months, what I've been doing is creating a really clear plan of how I can resurrect AcroYoga and how I can bring all the things of value that I've created over the last 20 years into a new platform, into a new reach. So that's professionally the thing I've done the most. And yeah, that's where a lot of my attention has been.
Yeah, when we were chatting on the prep call for this podcast, you had mentioned some big plans coming up for showcasing the workshops, bring the workshops back, teaching the teacher. Do you want to kind of dive into any of those specific things?
Yeah, so I predominantly believe that my biggest skill set asset is a teacher. And whether it's teaching somebody how to make salsa that my grandma taught me how to do, or musical things, acro yoga is the obvious one, but I love to teach, and I forgot the question.
No worries.
Snap.
No worries. So yeah, you have quite a few offerings. So in progressing the business plan that you put together, the 6 business plans, and kind of painting a picture for how that's going to manifest into like the physical plane, are there any like specific offerings that you're
Yes.
particularly excited about?
Okay. So, with all the business plans, one of my gifts is I'm a very expansive, creative thought person. And one of the drawbacks is following thoughts to conclusions. So, what this new business plan has is a retail line that has all the things that will support acro yogis. So, not gimmicks to make money, but there's certain apparatus that really support, especially beginners. And there's also workbooks that support the actual Move Connect Play book. So the retail line is one thing, an Acro App is the other. And what I'm really excited about with the Acro App is I just looked today, there are literally thousands of Facebook groups around the world, AcroYoga Austin Facebook group. And in those thousands of Facebook groups, there's thousands of people in each group that are looking to find training partners and looking to find jams and classes. So to have an Acro app where you can push a button, I want to jam, and it geolocates to anyone near you that wants to jam. A lot of the limiting factor of the growth of Acro Yoga is finding partners. And the World Health Organization has definitely cited loneliness as something that's as dangerous as smoking cigarettes. And it's ironic that there's billions of people that are so lonely. And a lot of it's because the way our current modern society is set up, it doesn't engender easy ways to connect with people. We've been taught don't talk to strangers, stranger danger, and all these other, I understand why people have those mindsets, and they're not incorrect, and I don't really believe in right and wrong very often. And one way that I do like to think about things is cost benefit. What is the cost of thinking that everyone you don't know is a stranger and therefore you can't trust them? Or what is the cost of trusting everyone you haven't met yet and meeting the world with that mindset? So the Acro app ties human to humans. And then I want to do getting acro yoga into schools. And what I see there is there are a lot of things that this new generation of humans coming up have a lot of advantages and benefits. Human connection is not one of them, especially since the pandemic, especially since people are on the phones incessantly. So having proof of concept in a handful of schools and then being able to scale that because I have the book, I have these posters, so the school. And then the last step is having acro yoga playgrounds around the world. So like in Santa Monica, they have the swinging rings and they have this place where people meet and do acrobatics. So have these places, and this is later on in the business plan where ideally there'll be a lot of money in the company and I can just go to Austin and say, hey, I'd love to build you an outdoor playground that has acro yoga activities that will now the children coming up through the schools that know about acro yoga, their parents will take them to the playgrounds and there'll be a place where people can interface again how we were designed to in community.
Heck yes. All right. You're speaking my love language here. Entrepreneurship at its finest, creative energy. Like you see the vision. And I think a big part of being a visionary is being able to hold space for that vision until it actually takes form. And sometimes things take a little bit more time, but all of these things they're slowly coming to life, and they already are in many ways. You're just kind of like connecting the dots. One of my instructors was an acro yoga facilitator, and I had a brick and mortar yoga studio for a number of years, and he would hold the jams every single week. And I know people look forward to those, and you come shy, like not knowing somebody, and then you make a bunch of friends, and then like trust is built, and we get out of this fear state. So I think that's really beautiful. Curious about the outdoor play facilities, just because I'm a geek on movement stuff. So, what would be like an ideal acro yoga playground? What would that look like?
Yeah, so AcroYoga has some really optimal movement patterns, and it's got some limitations. And one of the limitations is acrobats, yoga, it's all pushing, almost all pushing. So having pulling exercises like the swinging rings that they have in Santa Monica, that would be part of it. So it wouldn't be purely AcroYoga, it would be an overall human playful dojo. And it could have posters where it just has acro yoga skills where, this is what I love about acro yoga. It's not language dependent. You can look at a picture and be like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And I developed a whole bunch of curriculum that I called AY Fit. And then I went to my first fitness expo and they're like, hey, I'm like, no, it's AY. So it was horrible marketing. It didn't work. It didn't launch into anything. But for 5 years, I created content that was basically partner fitness that was not super difficult. It was low body contact. It was no woo woo. It was just like, you can either do this with the machine or you can do it with the human. So I just looked at all the movements that people did in gyms. So basically, you could create that. And you can also look at Brazil. In Brazil, on the beach, they have these stainless steel workout gyms where they have bar dips, they have pull ups, and they have little placards that give you ideas of what you can do. So that's the idea.
Love it. Yeah, at our community center in the HOA that's kind of nearby our house, they have like the rowing machine. They have about 7 of them. And my son, who's 11, and my daughter, who's 3, the first thing they want to do is go and use the equipment because it's just sitting
Yeah.
there. So I think, merging the playgrounds with the schools there, I think there's going to be a lot of crossover too.
Well, your kids will be the first recipients. You can test it on them.
Right. So you have a couple other business plans, or you named 4. You got this thing called Utopia. We want to know about Utopia. It's pretty forward thinking. Can you just kind of just give us the full download on this event that you've been curating and what that's all about?
Yeah. So Utopia is my answer for being able to create a super decadent high-end healing environment. And what I see from modern medicine is absolute brilliance and sheer stupidity. Like they're so extreme on both sides. Like the fact that we can create organs in a lab and we can do open heart surgery and we got these like there's so much brilliance. And then the simple things like asking people about their emotional health, looking for things that are strong in somebody's body versus always looking for problems. There's some things that modern medicine has missed that ancient medicine has other questions, other things that they look for. So if you're looking at somebody through the Chinese medicine lens, you're reading their pulses and people might be like, well, what is that about? Well, it's what people have been doing for thousands of years. And the thing about ancient medicine that modern medicine will never have is the element of time, thousands of years of testing things. And what ancient medicine also came from was ancient movement systems first. The movement systems happened first. The medicine systems built around it. So when you have a combination of really intelligent movement, really intelligent cross-disciplinary. So I love osteopathy. I'm actually considering becoming an osteopath. It's such a brilliant system. And so I have an osteopath, I have a Chinese medicine doctor, I have a chiropractor, I have an Ayurvedic doctor, all looking at the same person from 4 different lenses. And then we get to hang out for a week and live our best life. And we do an 8-week on-ramp where I ask a bunch of questions early on and I figure out, okay, like one of the clients that did this week-long Utopia in Bali, he wanted to lose weight. It was really clear. So we gave him lots of dietary things. We asked a lot of questions about food for him. And then when we got there, one of the huge unlocks was he doesn't really like exercise. So we had to make exercise fun. So we taught him how to swim. And he's like, oh, wow, I never knew that moving could be fun. And so we did pool games for like an hour in the morning. And me and my friend were Watsu freaks. We do all kinds of very cool movements in the water. So I didn't know that was going to be the bag of tricks that I needed to unlock this client's joy for movement. But it was basically push-ups and swimming were the 2 huge takeaways. And I just saw him, it would be 6 months after he did his Utopia. This is a $30,000 per person event. It's a very expensive thing. And he had lost weight and he was happy and he's still swimming. So I think in Western medicine, when you have really tragic things happen, there are so many solutions that Western medicine has that ancient practices don't have answers for. And a lot of the things about how do you feel, how do you think, what are your mindfulness practices, when do you move, when do you drink fluids, when do you eat your meals. It's more of a lifestyle shift that a lot of people don't know how much impact it will be. So that's a very long elevator pitch for Utopia.
Well, it really paints a picture of, having an individual that really needed something unlocked and you looked at him holistically and you gamified, you got him in the water and you did out of the box unconventional things and you listened and you saw what exactly he was responding to. Do all of these specialists come out to Bali and are they on site as well, or are you just with the client?
Um, so there was an event, actually an osteo Thai event that happened before my event. So a lot of the therapists did that event first. So there were two reasons to go there. But when you have, I had a $60,000 budget and I had two clients and I had seven doctors. So, the math adds up when you have those kinds of clients that really value this type of healing. So there were no local therapists at that one. They were all flown in.
Okay. So your team essentially comes out to be part of the Utopia experience with the client as well. And they're administering their ancient medicine or whatever their practice is as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Very
And we all
cool.
got together for 5 days before the event. I was actually receiving an aquatic body treatment and I was upside down with the nose clip on, just in a very chill space. And I had this flash. I'm like, I know how we're going to figure out what utopia is. We're going to do it on each other first. And then when the clients come, we'll already know how to be living our best life when we eat the meals, where the coolest beach is. So that's what we did. We spent 5 days with the team before the clients got there and really got to love each other up with our techniques and skills. And there were like mini sessions every day where we would teach about diagnosing clients or treating specific parts of the body. So it was super fun.
Hey, so you're also educating these practitioners that probably don't get the opportunity to facilitate in this way, and you're embodying the practice with them and then continuing to allow space for them to co-create with you. Sounds like that's pretty
Yeah.
rad.
And as complicated as Utopia can be, I did, through this experiment, distill a few things. In Utopia, you give every day and you receive every day. And that was the hardest thing for me to quote unquote mandate because a lot of these healers are chronic givers and they don't have as much grace in receiving. So you give every day, you receive every day, you teach every day, and you learn every day. And it's basically just that idea of emptying your cup and filling your cup. And um, I think because we've been living in such a different environment for so many years, those simple principles really rub against the idea of progress and doing. Because for us to be at our best, we have to be able to be in the masculine and the feminine. It comes up again.
Yeah, the give and the take, the ebb and the flow. All right. So, what does a typical day look like for you right now with balancing your work as a teacher, a founder, retreat leader, and across so many different modalities and business plans?
Highly variable. Recently, I've been riding my bike to the yoga studio, doing yoga, doing some rock climbing, and then riding back. That's been an awesome triple stack. I've really, in the last year, I've been a lot more in my yin. I've just been chilling and not really pushing my body. So it's just been exciting to kind of reactivate my practices. And both my girlfriend and I live outside of the 40-hour week. I just did my Myers-Briggs test recently, and I guess I'm the 6% of the world that will never do a corporate job, and I never have. So I covet the fact that I have a lot of freedom in my day, and I've engineered an outdoor bathtub where I've got a hose that I connected to my shower, and I open my shower window and I put the hose out the back door, and I have my outdoor bath. So usually I start with the outdoor bath. I've been studying some French on Pimsleur as I'm taking my bath, some movement, and then a lot of computer work with just building out this new business plan. And the pitch deck is about 40 pages, and I know I need to chisel that down. But there's always movement. There's always I love to cook. I love to live life.
All right. Tell me a little bit about this new legacy project.
Yeah, this was a sneak attack. I never saw this one coming. but basically one of the first people that I ever trained in AcroYoga, her name's Paige Allenson. She started the Africa Yoga project, and how that happened is I trained her in some basic acrobatics. She's literally out on safari with her family from Long Island, and she sees some Kenyans doing acrobatics out in the bush, and she jumps out of the safari vehicle, runs over to them, lays on her back, and bases these men. And these men, first of all, a white woman doing that is weird. A woman basing a man is weird. So she brought so many levels of weird to this experience, but they were all very curious about each other after that. And she didn't really know the seed she was planting, but she was planting, starting an NGO that was going to fund training thousands of yoga teachers to go into the slums of Nairobi and then in different countries in Africa. So she started this thing, and I was her first board of directors. I gave her a lot of love and support as she did it. And then about a year and a half ago, she was like, Jason, you're not going to believe who's obsessed with Acro Yoga. Martin Luther King, his only surviving granddaughter, came to Kenya with her parents, Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, and she wants to learn Acro Yoga. So, I have met a lot of celebrities in my career, and I was like, cool, that's fun. And then about a month later, she sends me a message. She's like, are you in Austin? I'm like, yeah, I live in Austin. She's like, you have to meet this guy, Mark. Mark is a Canadian activist that represents the King family and the Dalai Lama and worked for Oprah for like 10 years. So I meet him and I fly him at Barton Springs, give him a therapeutic acro yoga experience. And he's like, wow, I really want you to be involved with what we're doing. And they wrote a book called My Legacy. And something that's interesting about the word legacy, I'm listening to the audiobook and reading it. One of the things I just heard recently was the Webster dictionary version is always has to do with something from the past and always has to do with the transfer of something. And Martin Luther King III, the son, he has felt his whole life that he's very burdened by carrying his father's legacy. So these people are re-envisioning the way legacy is as, what are your daily activities contributing towards in your lifetime, and how are you making a positive contribution? So what they have all aimed to do, they launched the book, just came out, and in 3.5 years, it would have been Dr. King's 100th birthday, and they're going to do a huge activation in Washington, D.C. That will probably be at the same time that there's a new president being sworn in. So there's going to be a lot of really interesting things happening globally. And they want to create an app where people donate their time. So it's 100 million hours of voluntary service. So if you know how to make sourdough bread, you get on the app, you put in your zip code, and you say, I'm doing sourdough bread on Sunday. And there's a lot of wellness and yoga people that are going to be involved with this. And I did get on a Zoom call with the Kings and about 40 other movers and shakers. And we're still formulating the plan, but the NBA, the NFL are going to be involved. There's going to be multiple city activations. And at the biohacking conference, I got to meet them in person for the first time. And I thought I was going to be nervous, and basically it was like, okay, here's your shot. What do you got? And I said, I have worked with Israelis and Palestinians, teaching them acro yoga together. And no matter what the trauma is, I have seen that acro yoga can help people connect on a human level and let go of all the other things. So whatever I can do to support you to reach your dreams, you have me, you have my fleet of acro yoga teachers around the world, and I'm really hopeful that our collective desires and our collective skills can elevate humanity. So it was powerful conversation. It wasn't that long, but it was long enough to know that I'm able to bring value to people that are bringing so much to the world.
And you mentioned this is called, or they refer to their movement is the beloved community, correct?
Yeah, so the beloved community is one of the aims, and this is Dr. King talked about it, and I've been reading one of his books, his last book that he wrote, and yeah, it's as you can imagine, extremely heavy, but balanced with light. And one of the things that he talked about is he didn't think in his lifetime he had achieved his goal of creating a beloved community. And me paraphrasing his words is, you know, when you walk out your door, you smile at the people that are around you and you love people instinctually, and you don't have this separation from age or race or economics. You just have this open-hearted warmth when you see other humans. And when I read this, I'm like, well, that's what the Acro Yoga community has created. That's what I've been able to figure out very accidentally. I was an acrobat that learned yoga that figured out, okay, let me teach these tricks. And I'm teaching these tricks and I'm watching the people interact in a really unique, different way. I'm like, how come every Acro Yoga workshop, and it was the first time I did a world tour where I was teaching in China, all over Europe, South America, and I would be 10 minutes into any workshop, doesn't matter what language, what culture, in 10 minutes, everybody started acting like kids, giggling, comfortable, happy. And then I met a primatologist that told me about her being in the Congo for a couple years and watching the bonobos. And she's like, do you know why acro yoga works? It's a trust game. And the bonobos love doing trust games. So the big one grabs a little one by the wrist, swings them through the trees, and the little one's hand is open and they're smiling. And she told me that, and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's interesting. And then later on that night, it was an event, and I flew a 2-year-old child, which is effectively a chimp. So I'm flying this little chimp that doesn't have words to share, but he's holding my hand, holding my arm, not really trusting. And the moment his hand opened, he smiled. I was like, oh, wow, this is why acro yoga is a universally accepted way to break down barriers. It's our primate DNA. And once I really understood that, then I had even more motivation to get to my goal of 1 billion acro yogis. Because when this planet has 1 billion people that know how to play trust games, that don't need language to be able to have a really deep, meaningful, and fun connection with somebody else, it'll be a different world.
I can hear and feel your passion coming through with how many years you've studied this and how many different layers and levels that you've really brought this practice to life. And it's just very evident that you are a compassionate and just like powerful leader in your community.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I'm visualizing my little chimp. I have a 1-year-old and we already work on our base. I'm the base. I only know like
Nice.
a handful of moves, but I think it's just so good for just stretching out their fascia and yeah, developing
Yeah.
the trust.
Yeah,
So
also a lot of moms, when they first give birth, they're very sedentary, and you can be lifting your baby in ways that is your fitness, not just on one arm walking through the grocery store. Like that creates imbalances. So, your acro yoga practice can be a game where you're growing your love for your child, but your child, especially as they grow, they're
yeah,
making you stronger.
exactly. They love being swung around too. My 3-year-old, she's all about it. So
Nice.
you mentioned that you are taking a recent interest in biohacking, chatting with Dave Asprey, who's a big leader in the space. Tell me a little bit about your foray into biohacking.
Yeah, so it's like many things. For myself, and I would imagine many people, we have ideas about communities and then we step into them. And I don't know why, but I had a pretty negative opinion of biohackers. I don't really like the term, like hacking health. Like I don't know. So I had my resistance. And Dave Asprey has been to some of my events, and we've actually become friends. And I'm just shocked by how smart that guy is. Like, it doesn't matter what the topic of human health. It's similar to Tim Ferriss, and Tim Ferriss is the reason why I came to Austin in the beginning. He's also a friend. I ended up, living with him for the first 3 months I lived in Austin. So I've been extremely fortunate to really get to know people and see their activities and see the benefit of it. And so I got gifted a pass to the biohacking conference, which I was extremely grateful for. And I started going to these workshops and these classes, and I realized that all these people are really hungry for the same things that I'm hungry for. It's like different menus. They have their biohacker menu, and I have my acro yoga menu, but it's the same food and it's the same desired outcome of feeling good after you eat the food. So there was one day that was extremely comical to me. I get in the hyperbaric chamber, which I think infuses you with too much oxygen. So it's this idea of hermetic stress. Hermetic stress is when a stress makes an organism stronger or better. So I did the oxygen saturation, which is $100,000 machine. Then I go to the other machine, not right after, but a couple other little activities after. I go to the oxygen deprivation machine. And I guess I was breathing incorrectly because I have too much yogic breathing. So that second one didn't even work. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, y'all, if you want to play with your oxygen levels, you can just do breath work, and it doesn't cost $100,000 or $30,000. Another thing that was really impactful for me is I got to meet some of the best longevity doctors and really high level in their field. And then I got to fly them. I got to do AcroYoga therapeutics with them and completely blow their mind. And what I learned is what I have is extremely copy paste impactful for biohackers. Now I have a little seed in my mind where, maybe it'll take 5 years, but I want to be on the stage with Dave Asprey at a biohacking conference and have there be absolutely no seats. We're going to move. We're going to play with each other. We're going to do acro yoga with each other. And I want to see how you feel after that experience. And not to take away from the speakers, I was so inspired by so many of the people that were very tangibly geniuses in their craft. But no matter how good the words are, words, thoughts, ideas keep us stuck here. And that is not where a lot of our illness is. A lot of our illness is very simple. We're not moving. We're not connecting. We're not playing. Sorry, I just plugged my book. But it's a simple recipe that I believe in deeply because I live it and I see the people that live it and I see the people that don't. And I see a very strong correlation that if you move your body even a little bit each day, if you have a connection with yourself, if you have friends, if you have people that you are able to be vulnerable with on a regular basis, and if you have the ability to laugh and not take life seriously, this is a really good recipe for human health and happiness.
Yeah, we're hardwired to connect through the eyes, the face, the mouth. The whole polyvagal nerve network is engineered for us to like look at each other, notice facial nuance, and develop trust. And that's pretty much
Yeah.
what acro yoga does instantly,
Yeah.
like within
Yeah.
seconds. Okay, so back to biohacking because I'm definitely interested in this stuff. If you were to kind of list out like the main like biohacking, I don't know, the top 10 things on the menu. I'm just curious to know what yours are, and I'll share what I think mine are. What are the top 10 biohacking like modalities that are kind of like up and like you went to the conference, so you saw the people that are like
Yeah.
rocking it out. So yeah.
Well, instead of a top 10 for biohacking, because I did actually, if you go to Dave Asprey's website, he literally has a top 10 and
Okay.
they're there. And I don't want to
Oh yeah,
misspeak,
totally. Yeah.
but I think that's a really good place to start. And when I read it, cold plunges is one of them. I have a cold plunge. And I was shocked that I'm doing like 8 or 9 out of the 10. The only one that I'm doing zero is supplements. I just have never spent money on supplements. I'm 50 and I feel good. And I actually just did my blood work for the first time last year. So I am like, okay, that's an area where I can grow. But for me, I have three multivitamins for movement and health and happiness is tied in, but it's really just if you think about the way we were designed, so apes are brachiators. It's when you swing from your arms, your brachia. So that's how they get around is they swing. And humans are bipedal locomotors. We're walkers, but there's still a lot of our anatomy that loves hanging. So the simple act of hanging, and a lot of people aren't in a level of fitness where you can do a full body hang, but you can find a tree limb and put your arms up on it and just bend your knees and stretch out your joints, stretch out your fascia. So hanging is one of the antidotes of sitting. When you're sitting, all the front body is shortened. When you hang, it all lengthens. So that's one amazing thing that everyone can do. The other one is squatting. Squatting is the opposite of standing. So if you're standing a lot of the time, back in the day when I was living in LA, my roommate is a farmer, and he's like, "Do you want to come work the farmer's market?" And I'm like, "I got a college degree, started acro yoga. I don't want to." So I was like, "Actually, yeah, let's check it out." So I sold melons for like 4 hours, and I was shocked how bad my body hurt. All I wanted to do was get upside down and squat. So normal human behaviors like standing or sitting, the antidotes are simple. They're the opposite. So when you're in a full squat, and a great way to do that is hang on to two doorknobs and lean back and squat, because then no matter what your mobility is, you'll be able to do it effectively. And when you're in a squat, all of your joints are in compression. It's basically a squat. You can think of a squat as a standing child's pose. And then the last one is inverting. And inverting can be as simple as putting your legs up the wall, or it can be a full inversion. And there's a device, part of my AcroYoga retail line is going to be a device. My friend's company currently, who's the top of the market, they're called Feet Up. And it's basically kind of looks like a toilet seat. It's padded, it's made of wood, and it's got a hole for your head. So you put your head through the hole, you hold onto the wood, and you go upside down against a wall. And what's great about this device is you can relax your shoulders as the cushion is pushing into you. So all of this from typing, from sitting, so that's one of the benefits specifically of the feet up. But the other huge benefit of being upside down, there's so many. Presence, the ability for your heart, which is working so hard to get blood to your head. As soon as your head is below your heart's like, oh, I can chill now. So it relaxes your heart. All of the blood from our biggest muscles, which are in the legs and the butt, flows with gravity. And then if you think about your organs always hanging in one fixed place with gravity, when your organs hang the other way, it's such an amazing, impactful, and simple thing. So, when I think of biohacking, when I think of, all the complicated ways that you can be healthy, the simple ones are what humans do in nature. It's what animals do in nature. I watch squirrels a lot here in Austin, and I've seen a number of squirrels that hang from their back feet and just relax. And I'm like, basically, AcroYoga flying therapeutics. It's solo. It's better if somebody was doing that to you, but watch the animals, and they'll show you the movement patterns that we're missing.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to recap for our kinesiology nerds out there, you're going to go find a tree, you're going to hang on it, you're going to do some deep squats so you compress your joints with 2 doorknobs and get into that deep squat. And then the third one, we're going to get upside down.
And an easy way to go upside down, and this is in my book, you put 2 chairs against a wall, and it has to be chairs that don't have, simple chairs. Put them up against the wall, and you hold on to the legs of the chairs with your hand. You put your shoulders on one of the 2 chairs, one shoulder per chair. And so you can't say that you don't have what you need to get upside down. It's just you don't know how to do it yet. And as far as an impactful thing, if you were to pick one of those 3 things, inversions will change your life more than hanging and squatting will. I've seen it. I believe it.
Nice. So we've got Jason's a little mini menu that's going to be expanded upon for the Biohacking Summit. And if you're coming to that biohacking conference, you're not going to have a chair. You're going to be moving the whole time. Love it.
Sure.
I do have to add a couple things just from the chimp perspective, having opposable thumbs, because a big piece of the work that I do is teaching people how to use leverage tools. And the monkeys also, they did striking patterns, blocking patterns, and throwing patterns too.
Wow.
So I'd be curious. Yeah, that can be a whole nother podcast. But getting into primal movement patterns is a big passion of mine.
I have some goals. One of my life goals is to teach a chimp to juggle. I don't know that some Russian circus artist hasn't done it already, but I love juggling, and I love the idea of teaching a chimp to juggle. So
it can be done, I'm sure.
We'll meet in a zoo.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna just I've been totally. I had a question list, but I feel like we just have totally diverged from everything. So I have a couple more just kind of nuts and bolts questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up. So what is currently lighting you up in your work, whether it's a retreat, a modality, the results you're seeing in clients? Like, what is the thing that really lights you up right now?
I love being surprised. I love having ideas of what's going to work, and then when I'm working with clients, it's not what I think. So there's so many examples, and usually it's when I let go of the mind and I allow a deeper wisdom to come through. In the flying therapeutics, a lot of times there's this move at the end of my sequence called the hammock where I jiggle and I shake them. And I remember I was working on somebody and they had neck pain for years, and I did all the very methodical neck release, trap release that I knew. And it was when I was just jiggling them around in a playful, fun way, and we both heard the release of the cervical vertebra. And it's like, so yeah, as much as I think I know, it's just constantly being surprised by not knowing what's going to help somebody feel better, but having a really curious mind and a deep bag of tricks to keep throwing different things at the complexity of a human.
So simple, but so resonant. For the next generation of healers, teachers, and movement leaders, what skills or philosophies do you believe will be essential to create meaningful and future-ready work?
I think it kind of relates to the last thing I said. It's being curious. Whether it's teaching or body work. Whenever I'm teaching somebody, say, a handstand, they'll do the handstand, they have their experience, they come down, and I always ask, how did that feel? And from their response, I can gauge what information I can put into the system to support them. And I might say, let's try to have your arms straight and see what that does versus your arms were bent, that sucked, you did it wrong. So I think curiosity and really allowing each person in front of you to be a master. And so one of my Chinese masters said this very clearly in his broken English. He says, it's not one technique for 100 students, it's 100 technique for one student. And I left out the S on technique because he did too. So I'm just quoting him properly.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Jason. Where can we find you on the socials? What's your website? How can people get involved in what you're doing?
AcroYoga.org is the website. I also have jasonnemer.com that I don't look at very often. And probably the easiest place to find me is on Instagram. When I'm not deleting it for giving myself timeouts, I'm on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for being on Aligned Impact. It was such a pleasure to dive deep with you on all things movement, acro, and just healing the body with the right things.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to see and meet your kids one day and get you more into the AcroYoga game.
Amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Aligned Impact. I'm truly grateful to have you here in this growing community of leaders, innovators, and conscious change makers. Check the show notes for all the links and resources we mentioned today, and you can explore more of my work and programs over at FlowShala.com or connect with me on social media at Summer Huntington and YouTube as well for behind the scenes movement inspiration and business tips. Stay tuned for more episodes of Aligned Impact that inspire you to lead with intention, get empowered, and create aligned impact in your life and your community.